Hey guys, Wyatt Claypool here. Although this made a splash on social media yesterday, like all stories that don't make Prime Minister Mark Carney or his Liberal government look good, I found there was not that much mainstream media coverage. So yesterday, Carney at a press conference was asked a question by a reporter wondering if he had talked to President Donald Trump in a while. And Carney just admits he hasn't been talking to him and then kind of tries to play tough like he doesn't need to talk to him. I'm ignoring him. No, Carney's not ignoring Donald Trump. Carney does not have the ability to actually get a hold of Donald Trump. Previously, Trump has even said that Carney and the Canadians were following him around Asia trying to get a meeting with him, that Carney had basically begged to get a phone call with him, but now Carney's acting like, I don't need Donald Trump. Who needs the Quickie Mart? Not me. It's all just so silly. He ran on the idea that he could get a deal signed with the Americans, and we have no deal, and now we're just supposed to accept the idea that that's a totally fine thing for him to just not accomplish, despite it being like the signature policy that he ran on. It was pretty much that. It was that, plus him saying, we're going to spend less and invest more, which has turned into, we're just going to spend a lot. But anyways, you don't need to hear that from me too much longer. Let's just jump right into the video of this press conference and talk about it a bit later. And then I do want to actually bring up a poll from Abacus Data and show you just how much the Trump issue with Canadians has slumped since the election.
Who cares? I mean, it's a detail. It's a detail. I spoke to him. I'll speak to him again when it matters. I mean, the sort of, comme j'ai dit, nous sommes très occupés. Nous sommes très, très occupés.
Every time he gets uncomfortable, have you ever noticed he starts speaking French? Like he started that one off saying, "Well, it doesn't matter. I'll speak to him when it matters." Why does it not matter now? Like genuinely, can he actually answer why for some reason it's okay for him not to actually try and pursue a call with Trump now? Like why is it no longer a big deal when it was signature policy that you ran on?
Avec l'avenir du Canada dans les prochaines slipped into French because I anticipated the en français thing.
He slipped into French because he could anticipate the French answer that he needed to give. I don't even know what that means. Like, I guess because politicians always have to answer twice, so he did French first. I think he answered French first to give him more time to massage out his statement in English.
I look forward to speaking to the president soon, but I don't have a burning issue to speak with the president about right now. When America wants to come back and have the discussions on the trade side, we will have those discussions.
He has no burning desire? He doesn't need to talk to him? Oh, just when I feel like it. When Trump decides he wants to talk to me, I'll talk to him. Okay. Now, I've never taken the position that Canada should grovel for a trade deal. I don't think that we act like we don't want it either. Really, Canada should always be engaging in negotiations to encourage the Americans that, guess what, we can actually come to a win-win with each other, and maybe Canada and the U.S. need to be closer trade allies with each other in order to box out countries like China on the international stage. That's how I would do it. Maybe you would make demands, maybe you would give concessions, but you would be triangulating towards getting to that win-win that Donald Trump wants. Because if you know anything about Donald Trump, you're not going to get a trade deal signed basically popping into the room saying, oh, do you got something on your tie there? And like, I flick him in the nose. Well, you're going to give us exactly what you want, and you're going to go back home looking like a loser. And that's been like the liberal strategy here. We're going to show up and tell him what for, and he's going to give it to us. Or we're just going to basically meekly sit there, ask for what we want, and when he doesn't give it to us, we like just kick the dirt and we like walk home. You eventually actually have to negotiate, which involves concessions, demands, threats, all those sorts of things. A world-building narrative about how Canada and the United States need to be together to form an international trade coalition against, China, Russia, and Iran. You could do that, but we've just not done it. We've not been willing to actually negotiate. And so, of course, Carney has no burning desire to talk to Trump. Every time he does it, he embarrasses himself.
I'm going to answer a potential question here, and then I'll pass back, which is, for example, with respect to Ukraine and the 28-point plan. We are a core member of the Coalition of the Willing. You would have seen a demonstration of that yesterday with the meeting of European leaders, a core group of European leaders, the Prime Minister of Japan, ourselves, and which formed a common position. And that common position is communicated. Our national security advisors are meeting today in Geneva, including Canada's, and the common position communicated to do the additional work that's required on the peace plan there.
You might be wondering, what does this have to do with anything? And the answer is, it has nothing to do with anything. He's answering a hypothetical question he pitched to himself to get off the issue of trade, because he wants to champion the idea that, oh, he's made us a key part of the coalition of the willing. Well, we have no real military, and we have no real ability to support Ukraine, so no, we're really not. This is pretty much an American venture with some NATO allies close to the situation also helping. Canada is a complete footnote in all this. Frankly, Japan's a complete footnote in all this, but this is just the dodge on the trade issue. We are just now talking about Ukraine because it's an issue where Mark Carney feels, noble and robust when he speaks about it.
Each of us do not need to call President Trump and communicate that position. We need to forge that position. That position's been communicated.
He's proving that he does not need to speak to Donald Trump, because on this completely ancillary issue where Canada is really not a player, well, we don't need to call Trump to have a position on Ukraine. It's like, okay, fair. I don't know what that has to do with softwood lumber, aluminum, steel, automotives, and oil and gas. I'm confused on that front. But apparently that makes sense, that because we don't call Trump about our position about Ukraine, we don't need to talk to him about a trade deal between Canada and the United States. Perfect sense right there.
The follow-up is being done by our national security advisors. I will be speaking with President Zelensky later today, just to close the loop on some aspects of that. Okay.
Next question.
What did that have to do with anything? And the answer is nothing. It had nothing to do with anything. It had to do with the fact that he said something really stupid at the start of that question, saying, well, I'll talk to Trump when I want to talk to him, or when there's something to be done, or whatever. It's like, well, we should probably attempt to talk to him sooner than later, considering one, it was a campaign promise to get a deal signed, and two, it kind of has to do with the economic health of the country. And again, this isn't difficult. You don't even have to sacrifice the entire supply management system. Just put something on the table so that Trump can go to the Midwestern states and say, hey, look, I made it so that you can trade at least some of your dairy and poultry products into Canada. Fair enough. You can probably do that a little bit. Just to get into zero tariffs, it'd be great. And I think that you actually could get to zero tariffs. You just need to basically stage manage it enough that Trump can get that theatrical win. That Canada and the US, Carney and Trump walk out onto a stage and sign a peace agreement on trade, basically saying that we are in economic war with China and that we are linking arms with America in a new anti-communist coalition for the 21st century. That would actually probably do pretty good. But the problem is that we approach everything like a bunch of policy wonks who assumes everyone cares about Canadian nationalism as much as we do. They don't. They're not from our country, so they don't care about dairy farmers in Quebec and Ontario who get to disproportionately produce all the milk compared to the rest of the country. That's not a constituency that Trump needs to win. He needs to win Midwestern voters, and you should try and appeal to Trump's desire to win those Midwestern voters and some of those upper state New York and New England voters in order to actually help him in his midterm. That's what you should be doing. Appeal to his needs in his elections, not just your own needs. That's kind of how a negotiation works. But anyways, now let's move on to something else I wanted to talk about, and that is the polling out from Abacus Data on the top issues for Canadians. I do really like the way they do these, and I will have to prep you a little bit. So the way that Abacus Data does this stuff is that they take people's top 3 issues. You are given the survey, and you can pick up to 3 issues that you consider the most important to you if a Canadian election was held. And so that means naturally the more obvious issues are at the very top, that being the cost of living. The rise in the cost of living has 66% of Canadians who mark it as one of their 3 top issues. The economy, which is sort of related, comes second with 39% of people. Healthcare comes in third with 35%, and Donald Trump and his administration is at 34% now. Now, that's still much higher than I think it really should be for rational people to assume that a big Canadian election issue is Donald Trump these days. But still, that's way down from election time. Last April, that would have been in a close gun battle with affordability for the top issue. That was like 45, 49% of people. And this is after the election. Before the election, it was even worse. Like 47, 49% of people would say that Donald Trump and his administration was one of their top three issues. And for the people who put it in their top three, no doubt many of them really made it their number one or number two issue. But being down at 34% right now is not very good because it's probably going to keep falling from there. And when you look at all these other issues, they are not liberal leaning issues. Now, the Abacus Data hasn't released their top line national numbers yet. And usually, once they do that, they will show which party does better on each of the issues. But typically speaking, in past polls that they've shown that cost of living, economy, and even healthcare go towards the conservatives. The liberals win the Donald Trump issue, but when you go to housing affordability, immigration, crime, job security, those ones are either closely won conservative issues or widely won conservative issues. Like crime and immigration are those issues where 70, 65% of Canadians overall, no matter what the party is, say that the conservatives would be the most trustworthy on it. And now I just want to go down in the analysis that David Coletto did on his own poll here, because I found this quite interesting. David Coletto speaking here says, quote, "We see the same pattern when we look at the final poll of the 2025 federal election. When asked which two factors matter the most in deciding how to vote, 45% chose reducing your cost of living, followed by 30% for dealing with Donald Trump and the impact of his decisions. Climate change barely registered at 5%, placing near the bottom of the list." The climate change thing is mentioned here because the overall narrative that David Coletto was sort of highlighting is that climate change has been falling down the polling metrics consistently over the last several polls they've done because of the state of the economy. People do not have the money or the free time to care about what is effectively a luxury issue. Caring about climate and climate justice and the environment is very much an issue you can care about when you are basically you met all your needs. You have housing, you have food, you have a good paying job, all this stuff, your health is good. Then you can care about climate justice. And so these days, it only polls, when you even ask people their top three issues, it only polls around 12% of people even put in their top three. Now, that's pretty pathetic. So what you'll notice is that the last poll they did in the 2025 federal election in April, they only let you pick two of your top issues. And that's pretty massive when you can only choose two issues, and 30% of people make Donald Trump and his administration one of their top two issues. Now, remember, this poll up here is top three issues. Top three issues, Donald Trump appears at with 34% of people picking him and his administration as one of their top issues. I guarantee these days, because back during the election, if you ask people to pick their top three issues, Trump would almost be 50% of people putting top three. It's now 34% top three. And if you did top two, I would be shocked if it broke 23, 22%. It's probably down to less than a quarter of Canadians actually considering that one of the big pressing issues. So this is basically just my very long-winded way of saying that the Liberals need a replacement issue. And so that's why you're going to see them basically announcing projects and new trade deals left and right, many of which are complete nonsense. They're projects that were already approved, that were almost done in some cases, and they're trade deals with countries that don't do anything. We're going to go to Indonesia and say, we should trade more. And then we sign an agreement saying we should trade more. It doesn't do anything. Same thing we did with France, same thing we did with the UK and other countries. It doesn't actually mean we're going to do any trading with them anytime soon. We're just signing a deal with the UAE saying we should invest $7 billion into our economy at some point. Or $70 billion. An absurd amount of money that there's no timeline for when that will be invested, but probably Carney just begged for them to give him some good news. Even now, he's announced a new pipeline potentially with Danielle Smith. But it's not a new pipeline, it's a memorandum of understanding, which is the most Mark Carney thing I've ever heard in my life. And it doesn't actually mean we're going to get a pipeline, because the other little snag here is that he set up the standard that he'll say yes to a pipeline if it's privately funded, the provinces are on board, and the indigenous are on board, which means no. I've said that basically what Carney is doing, and maybe it's smart politics, is he has outsourced saying no. It's not him saying no to the pipeline project. He's saying yes all day long. but the Wet'suwet'en don't want it, or the Cowichan don't want it, or this other tribe over here doesn't want it. Oh, and David Eby also said no. So I'm saying yes. I'm saying yes all day long, but David Eby's saying no. So I can't break my promise. I told him I wouldn't force a pipeline on him. Now, maybe Carney does cut through all that. Maybe politically for him, it'd actually be smart to approve literally any pipeline just to say that I'm a pro-pipeline guy. But I don't really see it being a sure thing that he would ever say yes and actually get a pipeline in the ground, because he can just pretend that he's in favor of a pipeline and then just keep outsourcing the blame to other people for not getting it done, even though they have no authority to actually stop the project. It is a federal government authority in order to bypass the provinces for interprovincial issues. If you want to build a pipeline from Alberta to Ontario or to Quebec, technically none of those governments can say no, because they have no right to stop another province from trading outside of their own borders. That's the Canadian government's authority to give you permission to build something like that. But again, Carney and the Liberals, and previously Trudeau and the Liberals, love to pretend that all these were insurmountable barriers that they couldn't get around. Anyways, that should be it for me today, guys. Thank you for watching the video. Make sure to like the video, subscribe, share it. Also, leave a comment on what you thought about all this, and I'll see you guys all next time.